So as 2023 is coming to a close, I've been doing some reflecting, and I found myself when I'm talking to people on my team and my girlfriend and a couple other people, I talk about 2023 and I'm always saying like, man, 2023 just really sucked, man. It was just shit after shit, just constantly happening. A lot of it was business. And I started writing down, I've never done this before, but I thought maybe it might be an interesting exercise to write down everything that I felt like went wrong in 2023. And at some point I need to go and count all the wins too, because, well, I'll get to that. But I wanted to talk about this because it relates back to Stoic philosophy, and that's been helping me considerably because all of this stuff happened in my business, and then 2023 is continuing to be challenging all the way up until a couple of days ago. My dog Herbie died, and that's just fucking rough. I've had him since 2009, and he's the dog that turned me. He basically is. I wasn't really that much of a dog person until I met Herbie, and he really did change my life. All my dogs did, but there's something about Herbie. Herbie's, everybody that met him can vouch for this. So I'm still struggling my way through 2023 to a certain extent, but I'm going to head in a positive direction with this, even though we're starting off talking about negativity, and it does relate back to Stoicism. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this in here or not, but I'll list some of the shit that happened in the business. When we moved in to the new shop, which was cool, but it was kind of bittersweet because we closed the San Pedro location. And so that was a very hard decision to make because we really had all of our foundation there, and we built a lot of strong ties in the community. And so it really sucked to close that down, but it was something that was necessary for us to move forward. And then we got this great new place, but when we got in there, like I couldn't get anything to work. Like none of the printers were working. The internet wasn't working right. The shipping shit wasn't working. I think it was a couple of days where I could not produce anything. And it was getting really frustrating. And there was this weird, like really terrible odor in there. And so many things were going wrong, like the first couple weeks of being there, that I thought, man, there must be maybe like a curse or some kind of weird spiritual shit on this. And I actually had somebody kind of like do a cleanse of the building because I was like, I'm out of ideas. Like there's something wrong here. So then shortly after that, I had a disgruntled employee break into the building and steal some shit. We bought some new printers, and these are very expensive machines, and one of them has just never worked, and it's still never worked, and it's just been such a pain in the ass. Multiple problems on other printers. Then at one point we had the fire marshal shut us down. I think we were shut down for like 3 months or something. So we were sort of operating in the back, like just worried that at any minute, we were going to get fined or something like that. And that was totally out of our control. It was like some shit about the plans they didn't match. So they wouldn't let us have our license. So we were shut down. Had a fucking laminator machine fall and break my toe. Cost a bunch of money. I don't know. I could just keep going on. There's more things on the list, but I think you get the point. So I was looking at 2023 and I'm like, man, that year just fucking sucked, man. And then it keeps sucking because with Herbie, and I'm like, fuck. But, it was interesting after I wrote down all that shit, and I've been rereading some Stoic stuff because that I feel like that philosophy is exactly what you need for things like this. And there's so many different concepts that this could be tied back to that I hope I'm not completely all over the place, but if you read Epictetus, the Enchiridion, there's like several passages in there that relate to this kind of stuff. And for all the business things, there's one that talks about understanding the way things are, so he talks about, like, I guess they used to go to these bathhouses or something back in, whatever the fuck year, 2,000 years ago. And so he was talking about kind of the things that frustrated him, that would frustrate people when they go there. Like, People are going to be acting like assholes. They're going to be splashing and doing all these kind of things. If you leave your stuff unattended, it might get stolen. And so he talks about, going into those situations and preparing yourself to understand that that's the way these things are, so that when they do inevitably happen, or most likely, possibly, whatever do happen, it's easier to take because you already expected it. And that can definitely relate to business. So when I'm running through all of this shit, and I didn't even get through my whole list, there's a bunch of other stuff. That's what it's like to run a business. I mean, it's not an easy thing. So you're constantly going to have to be dealing with shit. If you look at things like, if you relate it to other things, it's probably mild compared to what some other people have gone through. And it's probably a total pain in the ass compared to others. Everybody's journey is different. But at the same time, it's to be expected. And if you go into business and you expect everything to go smoothly, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, because that's just not how it is. So if I were to go back and start taking stock of other years, I probably would have found a whole bunch of shit. Maybe 2023 was more challenging than other years, but I mean, we made it through 2020 and the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff, and then all the shit that mandates and all that, and we didn't force anybody to do any of that shit. I mean, whatever you think about that, I don't really care. But I mean, we told everybody, look, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't. I don't give a fuck. It was just, we made it through all of that stuff, I guess is the point. We didn't force anybody to do anything. And there's just been constant things since then. You had supply chain issues, a lot of things. We had equipment sitting on boats that we paid for that we just didn't see for months and months. So there's a lot of things, and that was before 2023. So, I mean, the point is that's business. That's how things are. So so even though I sort of like fell off of the whole mindset of thinking of it in the more Stoic philosophy type of way, I got myself back on there and realized that is the nature of things. That is the nature of things in business, and that's how it is. You're going to be putting out fires all the time. And so related to that with my dog Herbie, I mean, that's also the nature of things. We don't live forever. Nothing does. It would be unreasonable to think that he was never gonna pass away. And he was also very old. And so I'll stick to this a little bit because there's a bunch of things that relate to this. So obviously understanding the nature of things. If you have a dog, you go into that with the understanding that dog at some point is going to pass away. They don't live long as you do in general, unless you die early or you're really old. So that's one thing. Then there's another passage in Enchiridion, number 11. And the way that this author translated, everything is on loan. I'll just read it. Don't say of anything, I've lost it, but rather I've given it back. Did my cup fall and shatter? I've given it back. Did my jewelry get stolen? I've given it back. Did my grandmother pass away? I've given her back. Take everything as if it were on loan, because it is. Eventually, all things must return to their divine source. The method and timing of their return is not up to you. So my understanding of that concept is like, you can't take anything with you. And that includes people in your life, your loved ones, your pets, or any of that kind of stuff. So when inevitably you lose these things or these people or these animals, then it's not really within your power unless you did something to cause that to happen, of course. But that's not what we're talking about. Herbie passing away was not within my power, but it was also inevitable. And so I don't know how much I really believe in a divine source or anything like that, but it sort of seems like there's some shit like that. So Herbie has gone back to where he came from, essentially. I don't mean to laugh. I mean, I'm just doing my best to talk about this. So along those lines, there's another thing that I think is more important. Well, not more important, but something that was more helpful for me. So the concept that I always find the most helpful is that idea of, the things that are within your control and things that are not. And this is something that I was having a hard time getting my head around early when I was trying to learn about Stoic philosophy and understand it. And the reason I was having trouble is because, and I don't know if it was the way I was just reading it or the translations that I was reading, but it sounded like you're not supposed to care about the things that are outside of your control. It's sort of like only focus on the things that are within your control and fuck everything else. And I was like, man, how do you do that? Like, how do you not care about all the stuff that's going on around you? You know, there's a lot of things that were really fucking with me. And obviously, you know, when one of my animals passes away, there's no way I can be like, oh, well, Herbie was just given back to the divine source, and so it's all good. Or Herbie's life was not within my control, so the fact that he died is not something I should really concern myself with. But that isn't the right way to look at it. And that's not, according to what I'm reading from Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, at least this translation, that's not how you look at it. And I highlighted this one passage here that I think really summed it up for me very well. And it said, exert your efforts within your sphere of power and be indifferent to everything else. By indifferent, I don't mean apathetic, but accepting of all that fate gives you. So in my opinion, it that means like you still feel all the shit. Like Herbie died and I still feel it and I still struggle with it and it sucks. But at the same time, that was obviously what was going to happen. He was really old. His life was at the end. I mean, that was just the way it was. I saw him sort of transitioning from being this one kind of dog to like a slightly slower, more limpy kind of dog. And then towards the end, it was starting to become very obvious that he was ready to go. And the night before, I guess the night before he passed away, well, I don't know if you can say the night before. He passed away at about 3 a.m. And that the day before that, I knew he was ready to go. He was having a lot of problems. And so I had called this place called Lap of Love, and they come to your house and they do the thing to send them on their way. And I had done the same thing with Shorty because I think it's nice for them to, you know, be, Shorty didn't really want to be on my lap towards the end of her life, or else I would have let her sit on my lap while this was happening, which is what I did for Hooper. And I was going to do the same thing for Herbie. And so I had called them. And that day that I called them, the morning that I called them, I called my vet and I said, today's Herbie's last day. He's, you know, obviously on his way out. So he's starting to suffer and I just want to like let him be on his way. So I made this appointment and I asked them, can you give me something that I can give to him that'll make him just be able to rest? And so he wasn't having a good, I don't want to get too far into this shit. I'm not trying to bum anybody out here, but I wanted him to be a little bit sedated because he was sort of struggling. Like I really was hoping that they would have an appointment that day because he was ready to go. So they gave me this stuff and I gave it to him and he fell asleep. And then later that night he was getting really restless. And so I slept with him on the couch and I had him next to me and he kept waking up and getting restless and I would try to rearrange him and get him comfortable. And then I woke up about 5:30 in the morning and he was gone and he was stiff. So he was gone for probably, I don't know, 2-3 hours or whatever. So I know this isn't the most uplifting shit you've ever listened to, but maybe I'll edit it out. Maybe I won't. I don't know. So the point is, how can you be indifferent about that? And Marcus Aurelius says not to be apathetic. So in my opinion, that means feel all the shit, but also do it with the understanding that this is what was going to happen. There's a part in the Enchiridion about acceptance. There are so many things in the Enchiridion that relate to this: unrealistic expectations, number 14. Well, as I talked about, number 11, everything is on loan. Number 19, acceptance. And that's kind of where I've gotten to the point where when I think about all the things in my business, I accept that is the shit that I signed up for. Doesn't matter if it's fun or if it isn't fun and it's not something I want to deal with. The fact of the matter is I started my own business and that shit is hard and there's constantly going to be shit happening for the duration of the time that I do that. So I have to accept the fact that that's going to happen, because if I don't, what's the alternative? I'm just going to suffer more because I'm going to sit there and go, why is all this shit happening? I can't believe the fucking roof in the building's leaking and the guy's not going to help and do all this shit. And, this guy broke in and who knows, maybe someday some worse shit happens and all these kind of things. I already knew that shit was going to happen. Not that specific shit, but I already knew that starting a business and doing that thing is what you sign up for. And I already knew that adopting old dogs, I'm going to sign up for some heartbreak because that's just what happens. But with Herbie, it was a whole different fucking thing because I had him way longer than I thought I was going to have him, So the first line of this translation of the Enchiridion is the first line of number 19, acceptance. If you learn to accept all things that are outside of your control instead of resisting them, you'll be unshakable. So if you look at that and then you look at what Marcus Aurelius said, that's what it feels like to me. It seems like go ahead and feel all the shit you're feeling. There's no reason to bottle that shit up and not, experience those things. But at the same time, to deny the idea that these things are going to happen is going to make you suffer even more. So accepting the things that are outside of your control, I think will make you a lot more equipped to deal with them when they come up, which they inevitably will. All right.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And stay up.